Hey everyone, welcome to episode 150, Tuesdays with Perry. I'm going to get Perry in here in just a second. Tonight, we're going to be discussing the war in Iran. We're also going to be discussing the revelations about Joe Biden and Anthony Fauci. We're going to talk about the Democrat socialist, the socialists in America, let's just put it that way. And the fact that the DNC is broke and out of ideas. And that leads us to our last and final subject tonight, which is going to be there's a budget surplus thanks to Trump's tariffs. So we're going to be talking about that as well. So without any further ado, let's have Perry join us right now from Florida. Perry, how are you doing, my friend?
Other than the incredibly intense heat, I couldn't be better. How are you, Rudy?
Doing well, doing well. Thank you.
Great.
Um, Well, thanks for joining me tonight. Let's start out from the top. What is turning out to be a world war? I don't know if you saw the show today where I went over the Caspian Sea as a new flashpoint for attacks. Not only was Israel attacking Russian ships in the Caspian Sea early on the war with Iran, but now there are more attacks in the Caspian Sea. The Ukrainians are attacking Iranian tankers in the Caspian Sea. The Russians are, and cargo ships, the Russians are supplying the Iranians with a variety of different weaponry. We saw the proof of MERV technology being used in their ballistic missiles. What you say about this, what seems to be now these two major global conflicts, the Ukrainian war with Russia and the Iranian war with the US, now kind of merging up there in the Caspian.
Well, we can no longer accept the denials coming from the globalists that it is not a two-front war. It is a two-front war. And it has many players in it. You know, as far to the east and south as the Houthis, to as far north as the Ruskies. And it's you and I have said this many times over the past 3 years. You continue to hit home, and the occurrences over the recent few months, not even years, few months, have proven everything you've been saying to be quite accurate, which is we have entered what is now becoming the Third World War. People have a hard time buying into that because they've seen the war footage of World War II. They saw the millions of people that died. And they're not seeing that right now. They're not seeing the cataclysmic destruction of entire societies as what took place during World War II. So people look at individuals such as yourself and to a much lesser extent myself and say, you're just chicken little. No, no. We're months away from life living out art when it comes to AI and specifically robotic soldiers. I think you talked about this on one of your shows in the last week or so, and if not, I may have seen it on another channel. But the Chinese have already employed their first soldiers. They already have robotic soldiers. They're not ready to send them to war because, of course, they're not perfect yet. But they also have robotic police officers who stand right next to their human counterparts. And this means we're looking at the war of the clones. We already have clones in the air, known as drones. And yes, they are still being flown by a land-bound pilot. But we're seeing a lot of robotics that are totally autonomous. These speed boats that we're now using in the Gulf to take out whether it's Iranian submarines or it's Iranian piers or Iranian tankers or whatever. They're fully autonomous, and nobody is seeing what's really coming. And then, of course, you touched on this during your show this morning, where we're in a tech war with China. Right now, we're still on top, but they're trying to catch us, and they're using all kinds of techniques, including the denial of rare earth minerals, to catch us. And the whole purpose of what all these interactive um, superconducting, computer stations uh, are for is not just so that Amazon can deliver packages faster and more economically by dropping a package at your door by use of a drone, but it is for more intense purposes, meaning warfare. And this is coming. This is coming, and it's coming fast. I know we're going to have robots in people's homes by Christmas time. I know they're having issues, but let's face it, Tesla already has Optimus. It's only a matter of months. And the reason why I say that is because look at what's being created all around us. So it's 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 deadly. It is absolutely deadly, and it's coming. It's coming to a city near you very soon, very soon, and
Yeah,
that's what we're seeing in this world war.
yeah, it is going to be a Brave New World, Attack of the Clones. We were seeing it in drone warfare, and you're having drones attacking oil shipping. Pretty soon you're going to have autonomous ships as well. So autonomous weapon systems attacking autonomous transports, etc. We're definitely looking at a brave new world. It's hard to imagine. My brother and I were just thinking just 10 or 20 years ago how different it was. Speaking of 10 or 20 years ago, let's go back just 10 years. Apparently, Joe Biden was out of his mind already in 2017 when he was giving accounts to his author right after he exited the the Obama administration. He was already out of his mind, yet he was still elected 3 years later when his
No, he wasn't
deteriorate
elected. He was selected.
selected, right? Exactly. So what do you think of the recently released audio and transcripts of not only the interviews with his author for his biography, but also some of the audio from the interview with the attorney Robert Hur?
I'll sum it up in 5 words. See, I told you so. And I hate the fact that we even have to talk about this because it was obvious to everyone when he ran against Trump in 2020. Everybody in the Democrat Party told us we were a bunch of uh, age haters. Who, we can't respect our elders. Blah 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 blah. And as recently as the first half of the presidential election year in 24, forget the fact that I'm a conservative and I was so grateful to get rid of that husk of a human being. When he had that one and only debate with Trump, and Trump looked at him and then looked at the camera with an inquisitive look on his face and said, I don't understand anything he just said. And worst of all, I don't think he knows what he just said. And that was the end of the presidential campaign right then and there. It didn't matter if they ran Hair Club for Men or Hildebeest or anyone else. It's just that Kamala was such a humiliation that they wanted to be able to lay the fault of their entire party at her feet because she did run a horrible campaign. But it didn't matter who they ran because Uncle Joe had screwed things up so horribly. And in fairness to him, it's not really his fault. It's the fault first of his wife, who didn't want to be out of power. It is also the fault of the Democrat Party because they feared running Kamala. And when Joe said, I'm in it to win it, they didn't have a choice. Yeah, they could have put up a primary and have somebody like Dean run against him, but they chose not to because they knew what happened to Bush 41. They knew what happened to um, one of their other candidates. It slips my mind. But my point being is when a party goes after a seated president of their own party, it divides that party. And ultimately, it means that your opposition party is going to ultimately win. With Ford. When Ford ran after Nixon's second term, and he was kicked out of office because he was primaried. It didn't work for him. And so this is why they chose not to have a primary. They wanted him, meaning Uncle Joe, to have the best chance he could, and he flubbed it every second of every day. They were going nowhere with him. They were going to go down with him, with the SS Biden. But then you had people like George Clooney and other power brokers within the party that said, get rid of this guy. And the party capitulated because let's face it, those are the donors. And the
Right.
donors in both parties always get what they want. We in the Republican Party have the same issue, which is why the SAVE Act hasn't been passed yet, because
Right.
the Republican donors don't want it passed. And that's why Johnny Thune hasn't brought it up for a vote. It's not that he doesn't have the votes, he doesn't want to bring it up for a vote. And so, getting back to Uncle Joe, this is why what happened in 2024 happened. But what's really, to segue into current days, what's beautiful about what happened in 24, you and I had this conversation both on camera and off camera after the 24 election. And I think it was just after Trump was inaugurated for his second term. And we talked about this. The Democrats did not want to accept the obituary. They did not want to accept the facts of why they lost the election. They still, at this very moment in time, refuse to accept what their consultants tried to tell them before and since the 24 election. And it is for that reason, and only that reason, that the Republicans have a better than 50-50 chance of not only holding on to the House and Senate, but also gaining seats. There are other reasons why, too. The Supreme Court had something to say about that, but that's only in the House. That has nothing to do with the Senate. Okay? The only reason, because the do nothing Republicans have been just that. Everything that has gotten accomplished in the last 1.75 years, 1.5 years, has been done on the shoulders of Donaldus Magnus and his executive orders. And I say it all the time to these fundraisers who call me for the GOP up in DC when I do answer the 202 area code call. And I say, name one thing you people in the legislature have done without Bad Orange Man demanding you do certain actions. Everything that's gotten accomplished in the last year and a half has been done because Trump made it happen. Not you. Not you. What about all of his appointees that have yet a year and a half into his second term to be confirmed? You can't even do that in the Senate. So this is the reason why we have a better than 50-50 chance because the Democrats keep shitting in their pants and they keep saying it smells like roses. And so as long as they allow the socialists and Marxists to run rampant, and that's what they're doing, they are a captured party right now. They have, and I said this to you last year, Schmucky Chucky will not run for re-election in 2 years. Mark my words. I said it back at the beginning of this year. I'm saying it now because he sees the writing on the wall. They won't have him. Now, whether it's going to be AOC or it's going to be an even further leftist, and now we know with leadership like Mondani, and we don't have time to talk about that schmuck tonight, but with people like Mondani in the party, it could be the leftists in the party don't even like AOC. She's not leftist enough.
Yeah.
That's
What?
pretty scary.
Why don't we get into that right now? The DSA
Okay.
rising, the Democratic Socialists of America are rising, and nobody knows what to make of it. The electorate seems not to really know what to make of it. They're like, well, let's try communism again. And then, of course, the Democrat moderates don't want it. The Republicans certainly don't want it. What do you think come midterms? What do you think the DSA is going to? I think it's going to ruin it for the Democrats, but you tell me.
When you have people like Jimmy Boy, the Raging Cajun, Caravel, down in Louisiana, saying this is the end of the Democrat Party. You have, and I'm trying to remember who it was. Um, it's a famous younger Democrat who has left the party. You had this young woman's book on your show this morning.
Right. Barker. Right. Evan. It's Evan.
Thank you.
It's Evan Barker.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Evan, when you have young progressives, she is no Sam Nunn. Okay, she is no Scoop Jackson. She calls herself a progressive, but when she can't stand what's coming, the stench that is coming out of the basement of her party's house, that she has to literally leave the party. Now, I don't know if she's an independent or if she decided to become I don't think she's decided to become a Republican. But the point being is, this is someone who calls herself a progressive. She's very liberal, but she loves the country. She doesn't hate the country. She doesn't want to dismantle the very foundation of our country. That is the power that is coming from the Democrat Party right now. They want to eviscerate the founding documents of this country. That's what tearing down all those statues of Confederate soldiers 6 years ago was all about. Destroying our country's history. It's no different than what Mao did during the Cultural Revolution. Eviscerate the past, and we become the history.
Right. Year zero. Yep.
Right. Year zero. This is what the Democrat Party has become. And, again, you're no soothsayer. I certainly am no soothsayer. But individuals like us said to people back in New York City last November, before and after the election, just wait, just wait. If this guy becomes mayor, he is going to tear the city apart. It has now gotten to the point where my boy Paulie, former NYPD, on the 5, I caught his feed today on X. He said it has gotten so bad in the subways now that there is no place to hide when you're on the subway. If you're an innocent citizen, an innocent bystander, you can't escape the lawlessness anymore. This is all being done on purpose to make life unlivable, because then what choice do the people who want law and order have at that point when there's nothing but chaos? You have to beg those who are in power to do something. And what will people like Mondani do? Continue to support me, and I will protect you. And that is exactly their shock troops are the mentally disturbed and the gang members of New York City. Those are the shock troops of these far left crazies. SDS. Okay, um, that is what they're using to get their way. And my wife just informed me today. I don't know where she read it. I asked her to tell me what publication she read it from. Mondani is now doxing
Yeah.
all the millionaires and billionaires.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that?
Yep. I
Really?
I covered that today. Yep. Yep. He put it out there. Not all the millionaires and billionaires, but the landlords, the building owners. He doxed them, and with this kind of like, well, what are we going to do about these people? And we've heard that before.
Yeah, my people heard that uh, 80 years ago,
Yeah. Right.
and
Exactly.
it didn't end well for us.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. What are we going to do about these people? Which takes me back to the DNC, which is the center, the eye of Zoran, I guess you could say. The DNC is broke and out of ideas. So where is this moderate husk with no money and doesn't seem like they have any donors, and they're shedding their people like Evan Barker? What do you think the chances are for the socialists or for the moderate Democrats? They're still eyeing states and seats.
Well, sure, because those who live in a bubble don't see what's going on outside that bubble. And they have the numbskull, lame brain media either through denial or through outright support telling them, keep going, keep going. And so, look, you when you have mainstream Democrats that are saying, I can't support this.
Yeah,
I can't be a
James
part of
Carville.
this.
Yeah, James Carville even was
Right.
like, yeah,
Right. Like I said earlier, if Jimmy Boy is saying that, okay, um, gosh, his name, Mitch, I've forgotten his last name now, the governor of Louisiana comes from an incredibly politically connected family. I mean, going back, I think he's third generation elected official. And he's no longer a Democrat. He's a registered Republican governor.
yeah,
When you have you you can't call them blue dog Democrats anymore. Those are mainstream Democrats. Okay, he is not a Strom Thurmond. Okay, he was a mainstream Democrat 20 years ago. Okay, his sister was governor 20 back during Katrina. Okay, when you have people from families with who are rich in history of the Democrat Party of of not decades but generations, and they say, "I'm a Republican now." All that means is that all that power inside the Democrat Party is going to be very concentrated, but it's not going to be powerful. They are becoming a regional party. They just don't realize it yet. And that's why I think John Thune can sit on his tuchus and do nothing because he's looking at the polls you and I can't see.
right.
And my guess is, you know, when it comes to midterm elections, whatever party holds the White House, historically, 95 to 99% of the time, loses control of the House and Senate if they have it at, at the beginning of that president's term. It's only happened twice in modern history where the president, who is also the same party as the leader, as the majority leaders in both houses, was able to hold on to that majority. And the last one to do it was Bush 43.
Right.
The reason why ultimately was because of 9/11. You do not take power away and authority away from a president during wartime. It doesn't matter whether you're from the United States, or we can even look at Israel. They had an election since their 9/11, which is October 7th.
Right.
What happened? Bibi got a bigger support than he had before. So whether it's the United States, whether it's in Europe, whether it's halfway around the world, doesn't matter. Those are the only reasons for a party that is currently in power at both the executive and legislative branches holding on to power.
Right.
That's not the case this time, even though we are in World War III right now. The country is against this war. We're not supporting this war. We are basically acquiescing and saying, just get it over. Just get it over. But we're not supporting it. So why is it that the Republican Party still has a 50-50 shot of holding and maybe gaining seats? It is because of what the Democrats are doing to them. They're eating themselves.
Right.
And so the average person, and we've had this discussion on your show before, Rudy, the average person who does their civic duty every 2 and 4 years, and whether it's a personality contest or whether they're actually following what's going on inside that campaign, people go out and pull the lever. They do their civic duty. They're looking at this craziness. They're seeing what's happening with Los Angeles. They're seeing what's happening with Chicago. They're seeing what's happening with New York. But you know what else they're seeing? They're seeing what happened in Memphis.
Yeah.
They're seeing what happened in Washington, D.C.
Yep.
Okay? And they're saying there's law and order again because those cities allowed federalized troops to come in and help the police restore law and order.
Yeah.
And now Washington, D.C. is arguably one of the safest big cities, if not the safest big city in our country.
Yeah.
And it hasn't been that since they were granted self-rule back in 72, 73, whenever it was. Because, of course, there's never been a Republican in charge of Washington,
Ever.
D.C.
Right. Right.
Always been Democrats.
Yep.
So people around the country are looking at this and saying, yeah, I can't stand the do nothing Republicans, but I sure as hell don't want my country to go up in smoke
Yeah.
through what will be a civil war if the Democrats regain control of the House and Senate. Because if they do, I guarantee you, Trump will be, they'll already have impeachment papers ready. So as soon as the new Congress is sworn in the first week of January, they're going to bring up impeachment. They're going to impeach him.
Yep.
They're going to hand that off to the Senate. And if the Senate is controlled by Schmucky Chucky, they're going to try and find a way. And hopefully there are no turncoat Republicans, because if I'm not mistaken, you do need a supermajority to convict. You need to check me on that, but certainly at least 60 votes. It's not a simple majority.
Right.
Okay. So that's what is entailed for the country. Forget Trump. It's not, it's not about Trump. It's about our country and whether or not we want to continue to improve things for not just ourselves, not just our children, but future generations. And what Trump has done on his own, as he did back in 2017, on his own, he's turning things around. Now, if we maintain control, and Johnny Thune is shown the door as leader in January.
Yep.
Okay. Maybe, just maybe, the last 2 years of the Trump administration, everything will be codified in law so that the Democrats, because eventually they will get control back. It's a foregone conclusion, whether it's in 2026, 2028, or 2030 or
Right.
32. It will happen because politics is cyclonic. It's
Yeah.
constantly revolving,
Cyclical.
constant.
Yeah, cyclical.
Cyclical is the better word.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Cyclical
And
is the
I
better word.
the new world order is supposed to start in 2030, so I bet you they're in power just before that. They'll probably be in power in 2028 to take us over the edge.
Yep.
But there is some good news I want to get to now. Apparently, the United States has a budget surplus for the first time since Bill Clinton. And why is that? Because the the tariffs have given us a budget surplus. He was holding it back because I believe he wanted to give out some dividends before the midterms. I don't know if that's going to happen now, but it seems like Bessent said they were going to move it over into the coffers.
Yeah. It's amazing how we were told the Supreme Court found that these tariffs were illegal.
No, not
And
these
they're
ones. These are
no,
the
no,
new
right.
ones.
Well, right. But my point being is we were told by the lame brain media that these tariffs that Trump instituted were illegal. We know, you and I know, and your audience knows that's not the case. They just simply said you didn't institute the tariffs correctly.
Right.
He reinstituted under a different pro forma. Notice the Democrats didn't do anything. Notice the media didn't mention anything. And presto changeo, voila, suddenly in the month of June, we have our first budget surplus in decades. Now, well, not budget, 1 month budget, it doesn't really
Yeah.
count, but
Yeah.
we took in more money as a government than we actually spent.
Yeah.
So therefore, it's a surplus, a 1 month surplus. But imagine what happens if we have another month and another month. And imagine what happens when we get into the election and we've had 4 months of budget surpluses. And suddenly the budget deficit is getting smaller. What are the Democrats going to say? It's getting smaller on the backs of the poor. You're taking the money. How is that possible when the poor don't have any money,
Yeah.
schmucky?
Yeah.
Huh?
Well, they're gonna
So
say, yeah, they're gonna say because you're raising grocery prices. That's where the money comes from for everyone that shops at Walmart for Chinese clothes from Bangladesh and China. Those
right.
prices are higher. But if you're buying something American, maybe not so much. But hey, I still think they should send out dividend checks before the midterm. That'll change the race like nobody's seen for sure. Because
Well,
who are they going to run? I mean, they're running Kamala, really? I mean, who? I just don't see it. I don't see wins for them in the midterms, and I don't see wins in 2028. I could be wrong, and I also wanted to bring up because you mentioned SCOTUS before too. Trump is asking SCOTUS to relook at his executive order that applies to the mail service, the federal mail delivery service. That ruling, that executive ruling that has them scrutinize mail-in ballots.
correct.
And
Mhm.
so if that's looked at, if any part of the SAVE Act is passed before the midterms, I think we're a shoo-in. And I think even if that doesn't happen, you know, unless they cheat, I mean, how are they going to win in the midterms? I
Well,
mean, there's all this good news. And like I said, if they take the tariffs and send out dividend checks, I don't think they'll be able to do that, but wow.
Well, Rudy, it's a foregone conclusion the Democrats are going to cheat. The question before us is, will they be successful as they have been in recent past? And John Thune's not making it any easier for law-abiding citizens to have their votes counted instead of canceled. And, you know, look, all people like you and I can do is call our representatives, call our senators, write letters. You know, you don't have to put a postage stamp on a letter anymore. You can simply send an email.
Yeah.
They read them.
Yep.
They read them. And if they get enough of those, I mean, look at Markowski. She is catching all kinds of grief back home in Alaska right now, which is the reason why she's starting to come around to doing the right thing.
Yep.
She's probably telling her benefactors, look, I don't want to lose your financial support, but I also don't want to get a bullet between the eyes from my constituents back home because I'm not doing what they want me to do.
Yeah.
So it it's a matter of time. I just don't think it's going to be in time for this election.
Yeah.
So that's what we have to worry about. You know, New York is lost. California is actually the entire left coast is lost. Um, Michigan, Illinois, but
Minnesota.
there are a lot of what's that?
Minnesota.
Minnesota. I don't know. Minnesota. There's a lot of Minnesotans
I don't
that are
like that.
ready to burn Timmy Boy at the stake.
There's all sorts. They have a separatist movement also in Minnesota. The northern
I've heard
part
of
of
that.
the state wants to break off. I don't know, dude. I just I don't see anything in the Democrat column, and that's going to bring us to the next story too. So we were right about Biden. I was right about Biden. I knew when I saw him running in 2020. Um, that he doesn't have all his faculties. And I knew Fauci was lying.
Mm-hmm.
So that brings us to Fauci's diary. Um,
Mm-hmm.
we knew he was involved in gain of function before the moratorium, after the
Mm-hmm.
moratorium. He helped institute the gain of function research, which is really biological weapons testing, if you
Mm-hmm.
would. He was involved in putting that not only in many labs in Ukraine, but actually with our adversary, China. But a lot of that research was already done in the United States and then shipped over to China. And then there was a leak, a release. It certainly wasn't a wet market, a horny toad, a flying bat, pangolin, a zoonotic transmission thing. So now we know that all he cared about was his fame, that he was the hero, and most people don't even know that he started this fucking mess. He's the one that, at least at the very top, was allowing this testing to go on if it was indeed a leak. So he was responsible. It's like the hero firefighter that was actually the arsonist.
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the head. Look, if you go back and you look at his history of running the CDC and the NIH, go all the way back to the dark days of AIDS research and what he did to those poor black um, um, parentless children that were in orphanages. He killed these kids. And his attitude, as was with COVID, it's for the benefit of humankind. Their sacrifice is justified. Well, hey, Tony, instead of doing that to parentless children who already have two strikes against them at age 6, how about you take some of your kids and force feed them through the stomach like you did those kids? Well, he took what he learned in the 80s and applied it to COVID. And when he couldn't do it here in the States, he found a way through the dark forces of government to get the Chinese to do his dirty work. And that's why the Chinese got pissed at Trump when he called it the China correctly called it the China virus because their attitude was, you people in the United States just stabbed us in the back. We did your dirty work for you. We shared the information, and now you're making us the pariah of the world.
Yeah.
And so this is what his legacy will be.
Yeah.
Whether or not he's still untouchable has yet to be seen. But one thing for sure, that son of a bitch is in his mid 80s, and I don't care how good a health he's in. He's going to have to make peace with his God when it's time for him to leave this earth. And I'm telling you,
Yeah.
it's going to be a very dark day for him.
Yeah, Satan. Because the thing is, too, is most people don't know that the Chinese were in cahoots. There were Chinese scientists working on
Right.
those very coronaviruses, the chimeric coronaviruses. We had Chinese scientists working on them here with us. And then
Right.
somehow they got shipped back to China. We haven't really figured it out. I got some theories. And then we continued the testing over there. So it's like, nobody really knows that this was going on, but I think you're right. I think he's going to be, I think he's going to be hung out by the yardarm. If I'm correct, that Rand Paul gets his way, but if he's exposed, Biden is exposed, the communists are exposed, and if the cheating is exposed, and if we do all this by the end of the summer, I think we're going to have very good odds at and it really becomes what's going to happen with mail-in ballots and photo ID. And are we going to have poll watchers there watching? Because already they said, oh my God, if ICE is near a polling station, that somehow that's that's fascist intimidation. ICE can be close. I don't think they could be in the
They
polling station, but I think they can
can't
be right.
be. They can't be in the polling station.
Yeah,
They can be within 50 feet.
yeah,
But my argument to anyone who makes such a ridiculous statement is, what does any law-abiding American citizen, whether by birth or naturalization, have to fear about law enforcement?
none.
If you are a law abiding citizen, I don't care if you came here from South or Central America. If you came here legally, just like all four of my grandparents did, if you played by the rules and you now are a citizen, why would you feel intimidated because ICE is standing within 50 feet of the entrance? You have, if anything, you should feel good because your vote is not going to be canceled out by an illegal alien who has gotten it stolen, what is stolen identification by way of Beijing, okay, so that they can cancel out your vote. It
Yeah,
doesn't matter that your name is Juan and the guy stealing your rights is Juan. He doesn't have a right to do that. And therefore, you should be glad that ICE is standing there. You know, Rudy, this is what's going on right now for us. It's a microcosm of what's happening around the country because of the correct policies on immigration. You know, we're in the next stage of construction for our first home, and I was supposed to have 6 carpenters battening down the new roof today. Yesterday, I had 1 carpenter. Today, I had 1 carpenter. The roof isn't done yet. And you know why? Because the subcontractor, who is also Hispanic, lost half his crew to an ICE raid up in Ormond Beach, which is about an hour's drive. And now all the Hispanics that are here illegally are running to hide and they're not coming to work. Well, that's bad for me. That's bad for the subcontractor, but it's good for my country. And although it is a problem for me from a business standpoint, I don't want illegal aliens on my job because they're not saving me money. They're costing me money as an American citizen. So, this is why anybody who is of Hispanic heritage that sees an ICE officer standing within 50 feet of a polling booth is going to feel good because that officer is there to protect your vote and to see to it it's not canceled out by an illegal who has stolen identification, which, by the way, the Democrats do not want people to have to provide to vote.
Right, which doesn't make any sense because even who
Nope.
was it? Tim Kaine was on the Sunday talk circuit and he was talking about how, oh, everybody already has to show their ID. In Virginia, you got to show your photo ID, which is not the law. The law is like it is here in Connecticut. In most Democrat states, you could come with a utility bill. As long as your name and address is on it, that's proof enough. So he lied. Virginia does not have photo ID requirement, and neither does Connecticut. But even when I show up, they ask for ID and I show them my driver's license. But you could show, like I said, a utility bill or something as long as your name and address match. Um, this is the joke of the Democratic Party. So you have this where they're arguing for mail-in ballots that cause fraud. They're arguing for no photo ID, which causes fraud. They're arguing against the investigation of the voter rolls, which permits fraud.
Mm-hmm.
Even you had Mikey Sherrill in New Jersey. Oh, it's just 6,600. And now they've come out and they go, well, if we're going to go by
Right.
the jury call, which you're supposed to be a citizen to serve on a jury too, there were 75,000 people found on the jury roll that weren't U.S. citizens. So
Right.
they had
Right.
the DHS had estimated that the amount of non-citizens, at least they have factual information leading to the fact that it's tens of thousands, 35,000, maybe
Right.
75,000, maybe 100,000, but
Right.
it's certainly not 6,600. And so if voter integrity is applied across the United States, the Democrats definitely won't win. That's why they're fighting against it.
And also keep in mind, they're talking the Democrats in Jersey are talking about only 6,600. No, that's all they've found so far because you refuse to cooperate with federal authorities
Yeah,
because you know it's tens of thousands more.
yeah,
So you want to know why you're governor right now, Mikey? It is because you cheated.
yep,
And you cheated not necessarily by people walking into the polls, you cheated by harvesting votes.
yeah,
And that's something else that has to be done away with.
yeah,
There has to be a chain of custody. And this is something Democrats do not want.
yep,
And that is the reason why, again, their base is very disenchanted with them because 80% of the electorate wants the SAVE Act passed. 70% of all Democrats want the SAVE Act passed. 90 some odd percent, close to 100% of Republicans want it passed. And the same case goes true for independents. So why is it's not passed? Why is it that except for Fetterman, we don't know of any other Democrat that will vote for it? That, Johnny Thune, is reason enough for you to get it onto the floor of the Senate to be voted on,
yeah,
because then you're going to give Republicans who are running against seated Democrats in the Senate more cannon fodder. Look, this candidate refuses to support the SAVE Act.
yeah,
Is that what you want? That This is why I'm saying there are dark forces at work, and they are not representing the wishes, desires of the electorate. They are working for the people who get them elected, and not only that, but enrich them.
yeah,
Because every one of these peckerheads in Washington D.C. that has any type of power, regardless of party, has enriched themselves while in Washington
yeah.
D.C.
Yeah, and I think more importantly, they want control. They want to
Right,
decide who sits in office because that, as you said, is going to reflect in their payday. So they don't want to leave it up to chance who's going to be more popular and get voted in. They want a
right.
sure thing, as the business titans always do. All right, before we close out, last words, Perry.
Um, yeah, we're going to get to the Israeli issue because I got a bone to pick with you.
Okay,
All right. But we're not going to do it tonight because my
okay,
earpiece is about to go dead.
okay.
Maybe, like I said, let's if you can make the time. By the way,
what's
there
the
will be no TWP next week because I'm going to be out of country.
all right, no worries. No worries.
So we'll talk again soon.
What's the
Go ahead.
bone? What's the bone?
Well, you are still on this rant that Israel is pickpocketing us, and I keep telling you how we have benefited by the Israelis using our weapons. And this, I'm telling you, I got to make time right now. I'm under a lot of pressure getting these homes out of the ground, Rudy, but I'm going to find time to lay everything out and source it so that you have something to go back and read.
Yeah, you'll be happy because 219 is staying in, and it looks like the NDAA is going to end up passing, regardless of what I happen to think about it or some other thing about it. But we'll talk about it again, not next week, but soon.
Sounds like a plan. Alrighty, my friend. Be well, stay well, and here's to us talking again soon.
All right, take care, my friend.
All right, buddy. Bye-bye now.
Bye. Well, there goes Perry. Episode 150 of Tuesdays with Perry. Good to hear from him. He still wants to talk about the NDAA. We're going to get to that. No worries. The 219 in the NDAA, Section 219, about a fusion of the Pentagon with the IDF of sorts. It's a sharing of technology. But we'll talk about that very soon. All right, that's it. That's it for us. Episode 150 of Tuesdays with Perry. 150 episodes, so we've been doing this. Not every Tuesday, but when we can, get together. And it's good to get a different perspective on those things, on Israel, on World War III, on Joe Biden, on Anthony Fauci, Democratic Socialists of America, the DNC, and much, much more. Thanks for joining us tonight. Join me tomorrow and every day, Monday through Friday, live streaming at 10 a.m., Rudy's Revelation. And join us on Tuesdays for Tuesdays with Perry. Thanks again for joining me. I'll see you tomorrow. Peace out.